a busy mom of 5, I find that one of the most helpful things I can do is put a little bit of thought into snacks each week. I don't do this every single week, but I find it so helpful when I do. And with all that we have going on, these are usually very simple snacks. Plus, I'm not really looking to ruin meal times anyway. And this time of year specifically, I'm really focused in on a lot of foods, snacks that can be beneficial to their immune system instead of tearing it down. So that's what we're gonna focus on today. And before we do that, I'm just getting my yogurt ready, which yogurt, by the way, is one of their favorite snacks. Yogurt parfaits with homemade granola and some fresh fruit is always a hit. But I don't have my yogurt strained, and the reason I'm straining it is just to get that thicker, creamy Greek yogurt. I'll usually let it strain in these bags, which these are just off of Amazon. They're actually like the type of bag that you would use to make almond milk or something like that. But I'll just hang it like this on my counter and let this strain here for, I don't know, I would say I do like 3 to 5 hours. Whoop. My bowl isn't under, there we go. It depends a little bit on how much time I have and that sort of thing, or how thick I want my yogurt that day. But I will then take it out and just whisk it with a whisk. If you throw it in the blender, it breaks the, what are they, like the milk proteins? Something happens that it becomes really thin again. So I do it with a whisk. Sometimes I'll add in a little bit of vanilla or honey or maple syrup. On occasion, we'll do some freeze-dried fruit, like the powder, to make it flavored. Anyway, but that is definitely something on repeat almost constantly in our home. Okay, this is how I'm gonna hang them up. I'm gonna actually do them over here on this end of my kitchen as I think about it more, because maybe it's that we live on a dairy farm. They look like 2 big udders hanging there. And that was not what I was going for in the background of my video. So they're off to the side. They can do their dripping off there, and we'll make that into a delicious yogurt. But for now, let's clean this up and get into the actual snacks. Let's get going with one that I cannot keep stocked for anything around here, and that is homemade honey graham crackers. I sweeten these half with maple syrup and half with honey. I know that some of the benefits of the honey are probably lost when baking, but it's still a lot better than the traditional like sugar ones. Sugar, by the way, if you are not aware of, is actually really detrimental to the immune system. And so when I'm focused on meals that will support the immune system or snacks, that is something that I very purposely try to eliminate as much as possible. And so we still love having sweet treats, so I'll just substitute with honey wherever I can, especially if it's not going to get baked. There's major benefits to raw honey for the immune system. All right, we'll just roll this as thin as we can. We mixed this dough last evening and had it fermenting in the fridge overnight, so it is still pretty hard, but you want to roll these as thin as possible if you want a good crunchy cracker. Oh yeah. Our crackers are definitely not perfectly symmetrical, but I think they will be delicious. William added a couple little heart designs on top, so we have a little character. And these are rolled to about an 1/8 inch thickness, if you're curious. So I'm just gonna try to carefully, okay, never mind. I'm gonna pop these in the freezer for a little bit just to harden so that I can get them apart, because when you're baking them, you want a little bit of space between so they can get nice and crispy all around the edges. So we're gonna pop this in the freezer for a couple minutes while we work on the next thing. Next, we're gonna work on some healthy gummies. We're gonna start by adding a 1/3 cup of fruit juice to our little pan. I'm using Concord grape juice from grapes that we had canned last year, but obviously you could use any fruit juice. You can do a 1/3 cup of that. And then I'll add 2 tablespoons of honey. We'll bring this to a simmer and then remove it from heat. In the meantime, we're gonna grab, I have a tablespoon of water. It's just like, I don't know, lukewarm water. And then I'm gonna add in 2.5 teaspoons of unflavored gelatin. I always use this one. I showed you that when I did the marshmallows, but I'll leave it linked for you in the description box below. It's from Perfect Supplements, and I actually use quite a few of their things, really enjoy that. But I'm gonna go ahead and mix this and then stir it right into my grape juice. If this sits for too long, it's gonna harden and it'll just be a little bit harder to dissolve. So not a big deal, it still would work, but it's easier if you do it fairly quickly. Want to make sure that the gelatin is fully incorporated, or else you're gonna have little chunks of it in your gummies. This is just a little gummy silicone mold that I got just off of Amazon. I can link that for you down below. You want to put it in a tray so it doesn't spill over the edges when you transfer it. And then I'm just using a little, what are these called? Like eyedropper things to fill these, since they're so tiny. Well, this is going to take some sweet little time. Once these are all full, we'll put it in the fridge and let them set for about 30 minutes. It down here and then let it suck it up, let go. Yeah, and then squeeze it out here. The graham crackers have solidified, so we're gonna go ahead and pop them in our baking tray here and bake them. Beautiful. Then these are ready to bake at 350 for about 15 minutes. A fan favorite around here is fresh squeezed juices. I highly recommend, if you can, investing in a good juicer sometime. We have used this thing so much. We bought this, I guess, 2 years ago now, with some Christmas money, and we've used it over and over again. You can also get cheaper ones. I would just be mindful of ones that don't extract the juice really well, because then you're wasting a lot of money in fruit because it'll come out in the pulp. But this is the Nama juicer. I'll try to leave that for you in the description box as well. Today I want to do some orange juice, and then I'll also juice a little bit of ginger into it just to give it that extra little kick. I'm a little bit under the weather myself today, and I apologize that my voice sounds a little bit nasally, but I am personally really looking forward to enjoying this as well. So we're gonna squeeze up a bunch of oranges here. Josh got an entire box of oranges for me at the store yesterday. So these types of juices are ones that everyone enjoys. Sometimes I'll also add spinach. Maybe we'll do a little bit of apple juice today. I love having just a bit of a variety of them, especially if we're a little bit under the weather, because it also helps in just staying hydrated and helping take in nutrients even when the appetites aren't quite there. I feel like I could spend hours juicing and coming up with all these different juice combinations. It's so much fun, but I'm really excited to have these on hand, and I did want to show you as well. So this one is kefir. I've just started getting into kefir, and it's been a little bit of a learning curve, which is surprising. I've done yogurt for years. Well, first off, the texture of homemade kefir is kind of gritty, or at least mine is. I don't know if that has to do with my kefir grains or if it has to do with something I'm doing wrong. I'm not sure. I'm just learning. But I've found that if I add a little bit of raw honey and then a little bit of, I like to freeze dry berries and things, and this container is so dirty I need to wash it, but if I have like a lot of berries or fruit on hand, to grind some of it up after it's freeze dried so it turns into a powder like this, and then flavor things like this with it, and then I actually enjoy drinking it. But I find it really helpful to have really easy things like this to just grab out of the fridge. They are so refreshing and delicious cold straight from the fridge. So I'm kind of tempted to do a little bit more juices. Maybe we'll go by whether or not I have more juice bottles. Let me check. I found 2 more juice bottles. So I'm gonna do a little bit of apple juice as well. Just rinse those off good. And I'll just not even bother washing all this. We'll have a little bit of orange in it, but that can't hurt anybody. And I think I'll also throw in a little bit of ginger with this one as well. Yeah, that's fine. Just checking on my gummies here. I think they're done. They're still a touch sticky, but I can pop them out of the mold. So I'm gonna put them on parchment paper. I'm afraid the rest of my juice mixture there is gonna thicken out of the fridge if I don't get it in there soon. So I'm gonna try to pop these out and then get the next batch in the fridge. These would be so much quicker not using a tiny little silicone mold like this. So can definitely make them, you know, just in a pan and cut them into little squares, and they would taste the same, but it's fun to have that little gummy bear look sometimes. Also perfect bite-sized for little kids.
I want one. I want a gummy.
Okay, let's see what you think. Is it good?
Good.
I just realized that a number of the recipes that I had picked for today use different kitchen appliances. So I did want to mention, definitely don't feel like you have to go out and buy all the appliances that I have or different ones. I'm actually really picky with things like appliances, kitchen gadgets. If I'm going to add a kitchen appliance, I like to try to get the best that I can find and then use that thing to death. So basically, I only have a few different appliances. I have very few like gadget type things. They just feel like clutter to me. But then I'll use those things often, daily, and usually at least weekly. So I guess today we're using pretty much all my appliances. But if you had a good blender, you could just blend up things like oranges. You'd have a little more pulp. You could sieve that out and you'd still get a delicious orange juice. You could marinate some ginger in it and then just pour it off. Still very similar idea to this. And I have another delicious recipe to share with you a little bit later, but it's the same thing. Like often you can substitute whatever appliances you don't have with something else, or just kind of adjust the recipe to make it something slightly different. So anyway, just keep that in mind. I don't have nearly all the appliances. There's some that I wish I had. I don't have. It's fine. Can make other delicious recipes. So anyways, I was thinking of favorite snacks and these popped into my mind very quickly. These are date tahini bars. I love that these also don't have any refined sugar. They're kind of like a granola bar, but in my opinion, maybe even tastier. The base is made with medjool dates, and then they have a bunch of tahini in it. They have such a delicious flavor, and then I like to top them with some dark chocolate. So first up, I am adding about 15 large dates to my food processor. Then we'll add 2.5 cups rolled oats, 3 tablespoons maple syrup. Could also use honey if you prefer. And then a 1/3 cup of tahini. I am using this, I don't know, seed and mill organic tahini. Put all that in there and then process this on high till it becomes pretty much like a dough consistency. We want all the dates to be blended. We want all the rolled oats to be like it just kind of all lumps into this big ball, and then you know that it's ready. Okay, beautiful. So this is what you want it to look like. It's turned into this nice little ball of dough. And then we'll just take our dough and press it into this is a 9-inch pan. One of the things I love about this recipe that it is a no bake, so we don't need to figure in any baking time. It's actually super easy for the kids to make as well. We're just gonna press this into all the corners, and then I try to make it as like level as I can, and then we'll top this with some melted chocolate. For the chocolate sauce to top the bars with, I'm gonna take about a cup. I grabbed 3 of these Lily's extra dark chocolate bars. I'm gonna put that in my little pan with about a tablespoon of coconut oil, and we'll just melt that so we can pour it on. Obviously, you can use whatever type of chocolate you prefer. I would highly encourage a dark chocolate. This one is not very sweet at all, so if you prefer it sweeter, obviously you could do that, but I feel like the dark chocolate really enhances the taste with the tahini and the rolled oats and all of that. Just gives it such a good rounded flavor, but maybe I'm a little biased to dark chocolate in general. Oh, and while we're over here, my batch of graham crackers is done, and I never showed you because I burnt the first batch. I'm a little frustrated at my oven these days. It seems to not keep the temperature correctly because I had these in there at the exact temperature they were supposed to be, my first batch. That looked very different from this batch. And I think it was less than halfway through, they were literally burnt to a crisp. So second batch, I baked less time than the recipe calls for, but maybe just keep an eye on that if you're doing it at home. I'm almost certain it's my stove because I've had trouble with it more recently anyways, but the batch that turned out looks like this. They are so delicious. I don't know if you can hear the crunch, but they are just good and crunchy as well, which is what you want with a cracker. These are amazing in the summer also, by the way, using them for s'mores, but the kids go through these so quickly as just crackers and snacks that way as well. Another fun idea would be to drizzle some of the Lily's chocolate on top of that and give it almost that, what's that cookie that's like graham cracker with chocolate? I am not thinking of the word, but it has like kind of a frilly edge. You could kind of mimic that idea. That would be fun. But anyway, so many options. Okay, we'll pour the chocolate on top and then let it set in the fridge or the freezer until that's firm, and then they'll be ready to cut into bars. Super, super simple. Now real quick before I pop this in the freezer, my chocolate might be a little bit hot, so I might pop it in for like a minute or two just to make it not melt my salt, because if you want to take this to the next level and just get that good depth of flavor, I would highly recommend sprinkling a little bit of sea salt flakes on top. It just takes it from okay to wow, and I love that little pop of salt on it. But right now it would melt on here, so I'm gonna first put this in the freezer for just a couple, maybe a minute or two, and then add the salt. One of my most used foods in this kitchen has got to be cottage cheese. I use it for so many things. Sometimes I think of doing an entire video just dedicated on all the uses for cottage cheese. You can make salad dressing, vegetable dip, fruit dip, eating it with eggs. There's so many different ways, but one of my personal favorites is turning it into ice cream. So that is another favorite snack around here. It is so high in protein. Snacks I'm not as picky about. Like, I try to focus on a lot of like fruits, veggies, that kind of thing as well, but a little protein is also amazing. Meals I more base around the protein, and snacks I feel like I base a little bit more around fruits and veggies. But this is cottage cheese with that same blackberry powder that I talked about before, and then some honey and a pinch of salt. I think that's all I added. I have my recipe in my little binder over there. I'll leave that for you in the description box below. But this goes in the Ninja Creamy, so if you don't have one of those, another way that you can churn this is in my, like, I have a Cuisinart ice cream freezer. If you have one of those, if you have neither of those, you can also do it in a freezer and just stirring it every, I think they say hour or two, but it probably won't get quite the consistency and creaminess than if you have one of the other two options. So I'm going to pop this in the Ninja Creamy now. We'll blend it all up and it'll be ready to enjoy. The setting that I'm going to choose for this is the light ice cream. Okay, it is all done. Hang on, let me grab a spoon. It is so, I don't know if you can see, so delicious and creamy. I don't know if you can see that. Just a very delicious and creamy bite. And you're really eating cottage cheese and fruit. That is fantastic. It's cottage cheese stuff, but I did it not chocolate this time.
Bye.
You want a bite?
Too big of a bite.
High five. Good job. Now, for us, for a snack, one of these, I don't even know what this is, whatever the creamy comes with is enough, and often we'll also sprinkle a little bit of granola or something on top of it. But you can buy these jars, and I've seen people just have a number of these jars on hand, even if you're wanting to make some for company or whatever, because these do need to freeze for, I think it's 24 hours before you blend it up. But then it just becomes such an easy and delicious and nutritious snack or dessert or anything like that. Well, I feel like I could just down this whole thing, but you use a little bit of self-control. It is just about lunch for us here. And we'll move over to another snack that almost always brings the kids running, and that is popcorn. I feel like it is a very easily overlooked thing. It is something that I enjoyed eating a lot growing up. It's a great option if you want something crunchy and salty, but you're not looking for all the seed oils that often come in chips. So I have one of these little whirly pop things. They're pretty inexpensive, work really well, and last for years. So I'm going to add a bit of popcorn to that. I love adding butter to the popcorn. I don't have any butter on hand right now. Actually, I have a bunch of cream that hopefully I'll turn into butter this afternoon. So when that's the case, I also sometimes use avocado oil. I'll just drizzle some of that on, and then of course salt, but something that makes it extra delicious is adding a good bit of nutritional yeast as well. It gives it that really good cheesy, almost a little bit nutty flavor, and it's the only way that we like popcorn now. Back when my family used to travel and sing, we would travel in this bus, and so we'd take a lot of our own food along. And one of the things that we always loved to have on hand was popcorn. So we would take these, you know, the big Christmas tins. You can easily find them usually at a thrift store or wherever. We would take those and fill them with popcorn, and they actually keep surprisingly well in a tin like that. So that is something nice to keep on hand. But we're gonna go enjoy some lunch now. I did have one more thing I was hoping to do. I have this big ball of dough for making cheese crackers. We really enjoy these as well. So I'll try to maybe insert a clip of if I get to that later this afternoon. I had got this cute little cookie cutter that is supposed to make it in the shape of actual goldfish, because they taste, well, I would say they taste more like a Cheez-It, but I thought that would be a fun little way to do it. And again, it's little for little hands to pick up, is super nice if you don't have to like bite into a cracker and get crumbs everywhere. But I hope that gave you some inspiration for your kitchen this week. Let me know in the comments below what some of your current favorite snacks are. You want some water? All right, we'll go get some water. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, friends.
Golden, golden thing.